Well, you can leave the picture up. Let's just have lights up so people can see each other too.
Yeah. But y'all, it's, we don't think we're being, but it is. They're back at their office.
They don't have the red light yet, do they?
I kind of like the lights dim.
Well, you know, I've
more
heard
soothing.
good things about that, and some of us look better in dim light.
Yeah, and Steve, the only direction you have is to always let them know, welcome, that we're starting the meeting and to adjourn the meeting, so they know when to start and quit.
Sounds good to me.
That's what, but they said they'll always start right on time, pretty much. It's only in 326. It's not down in 111, so we'll have a live cameraman, but maybe in a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, they might have that one hooked up too.
Well, there's all kinds of cameras, and for people like me, it is quite obvious that I don't have enough hair, because these cameras are up nice and high.
Yeah, it used to be that people who gave a presentation at the agenda station, they would face the city alderman, you know, so you didn't really think your face would be on it, but now it is. They got.
Now they got you
covered.
spotted.
Yeah.
I think someone's on remote. That thing's moving around. Okay.
Pretty
Leaning
neat.
in on Kit's hair. You see that? As soon as you said that, it went.
They got you spotted, let me tell you. 5:28 according to this,
Wow.
which is probably a little more accurate than our clocks on the wall. I guess I shouldn't say that, should I?
Melanie, do you have an extra copy of that agenda?
Where you has your name on it? Just kidding.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different. We were gonna start out with him before approving the minutes, just so that he could get down to, Kit could get down to the planning commission meeting.
Which happens to start at 5:32.
Good, so you got 2 minutes. You knew that was
I
coming.
knew it was coming. It was coming.
So I should have said also. I'm
Also.
sorry.
Oh, I got
Well,
you.
5:32
TOO.
also.
Perfect.
He's actually trying to keep you all out of trouble, so
I'm empowering them.
you're empowering.
Well, as soon as this strikes 5:30, which is what I'm waiting on,
Yeah.
and we'll just go ahead and go without Richie
That'd be
here in
fine.
a couple of seconds.
Well, they'll start filming, so you might as well get going, as long as you have an agenda.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go. Welcome, everybody, to the September 9th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for the City of Fayetteville. We've got about 6 or 7 things on the agenda tonight, but first up, we've got Kit Williams, our city attorney, to review some of the information of the millage for the regional park. Kit, take it away.
Well, thanks. I'm here because Connie asked me to come and speak to you. There was a new act passed in the last legislative session, Act 312 of 2013, and it clarified and tightened up restrictions on the activities of officials and public servants in what they can do for campaign activities. You all meet the definition of public servants. I don't know if you realize that, but you do, because you are appointed to a board by a municipality to give advice to the city. So therefore, you qualify as a public servant under this act. Now, that is not necessarily wonderful, because what they have done in this act is they've had some limitations on what public servants can do when it comes to campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
However, the main thing that they can't, and they put some pretty bad penalties on it, a misdemeanor, Class A misdemeanor, which is a year in the county jail and $2,500 fine, and other stuff like you could never be a city employee or a city appointed person again, that kind of stuff. So we want to be careful that we don't go too close to that line. We want to make sure everybody stays safe. The key things, though, is that you cannot use city resources for campaign materials or to campaign from. You all have First Amendment rights, and the statute recognizes that you have First Amendment rights, just like our city employees have First Amendment rights. So that when they're off the job, doing their own private stuff, they are allowed, from the freedom of speech, to say, yes, I like the bond issue, no, I don't like the bond issue. They can be like a normal citizen. It's just that when they are on the clock or on the job, then they cannot do that. They cannot basically use taxpayer funds to campaign for the bond issue or against the bond issue, either way. This means that probably, even though the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board can, at a meeting like this or another regularly scheduled meeting, pass a resolution in favor or against the bond issue for the parks, and that would be fine. You can do that. You're an advisory board. One of the reasons we have the regional park, you looked at it, you made recommendations about how it should be developed. So this is really within your purview to make comments like that. So you can do that in this meeting as just part of your official functions. You as individuals, when you're not in this meeting, can certainly do anything you want to campaign one way or another for this issue or for any candidate or whatever, totally up to what you want to do. But you cannot use any city campaign or anything, city funds for any kind of campaign activities. And that's why if you were going to form any kind of group to try to support the bond issue or anything like that, you really should not call it the board. You know, you'd have it, you wouldn't want, even if you had some members that might be on this board, you wouldn't say this is the Fayetteville Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. You would come up with Citizens for Fine Parks, or whatever you want to say. So, and one reason for that is because you have staff assigned to your board. I see staff, I got Connie, Myron, you got staff assigned here. Now they will be here with you. They can't do that because part of their job is to work with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, and yet part of their job cannot be to campaign for this bond issue. So that's why you would, if you want to do something else, you want to do it individually or with another group, but not claim to be the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, because that necessarily implies that staff is going to be there, and they can't be there for that. Now, what the city will do is the city is going to create some informational items, a brochure or a flyer that fairly describes what will happen if the bond passes, but will not say vote for the bond, or wouldn't it be wonderful if everybody voted for the bond, or don't vote against the bond. Nothing that could be termed campaign can be on that particular flyer. We've done this many times before. As you know, we've been through many sales tax elections and things like that. Every time the city has presented information about, well, if it doesn't pass, you know, we might have to cut this many positions because there won't be money to pay for them. If it does pass, you know, we can build these roads or whatever. So the city can present informational items, but it cannot campaign for the bond issue. But you all do have First Amendment rights, and so since you don't want to have to try to remember what I said here, I am going to hand out what I just said to you all. And I think I have one for our staff, too. Except I don't think Allison gets one, so. Oh, you do. Connie, you'll have to take one of those.
That's all right.
Anyway, I'm always available if you need to give me a call at my office if you have any questions on that. But I think it's pretty clear you have First Amendment rights, but you just don't want to do it officially as this board. Although this board can, like the city council, pass a resolution saying we ask our citizens to follow our lead and help develop the parks by approving that. I don't think that's improper for you to do that as part of your official meeting. And Connie was surprised about that, but I think that's still okay. So does anybody have any questions before I run?
I didn't understand that last thing that you just said.
Yeah.
What you just said, the last thing you just said.
I said the last thing I said was that this board, if you wanted to, you're the advisory board to the city council. So you can say that you have studied the plan and the use of this money, and you believe it'll be advantageous to the city and citizens of Fayetteville to pass the bond issue so these baseball fields can be built. That we need them, it would be a good investment, you know, stuff like that. I think that that's okay to do. I don't want to probably have, you know, 20 speeches about it.
Sure.
But I think you can probably do that because this is within your area. You are the advisory board for Parks and Recreation. And you studied this issue. You made recommendations already before, so I think you can do that. But you can't do any other sort of campaign type activities. Is that unclear enough for you all now? So you,
Very clear. Thank you.
okay.
Appreciate it, Kit.
Well, thanks for putting me first on the agenda so I get down to Planning Commission. I appreciate it.
Very welcome.
And also, thanks for all your service. One of the reasons that Fayetteville is as nice as it is because people like you willing to volunteer and come out and give good advice to our city council so we know what to do. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's go back up to the agenda. So Connie, before we move on, are you guys gonna provide us some information on the regional park and the bond refinance at this meeting or after this meeting? Or?
We're in the process of putting together a informational little flyer that will enable anyone who would like to be informed about the bond, that they can look at it, and ones that you guys can hand out and do. We can give you, you know, that the materials that's in there, if you all want to create another, add anything to it that's campaigning that we can't do, you know, if you do start a group, so,
Okay, super. And do we know what the date is of the election?
yes, it's November 17th.
November 17th, okay.
Oh, I mean 12th, I'm sorry.
November 12th?
Is it 12th?
12th, okay, perfect. Any other questions on that before we move on?
We could go through, we do have a map in here. We could go through this map and tell you what the bond would provide.
Do you guys want to do that real quick?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, let's just go ahead and look at the map real quick.
Allison has a slide, so she's going to put it on there. You want to go through that? Oh,
There it is. Okay.
you want to go through that, Allison? What's that? You want to go through it?
So the darker green areas are what we would be focusing on in phase one. If the bond is approved, it would add another 3.5 million, which we anticipate would build up to 3 baseball fields plus the associated parking. So what you're seeing there is the Great Lawn pavilion and play area, the 6 natural turf soccer fields, parking areas, restroom, concession stand, and 3 ball fields.
And the Great Lawn as well would be developed with this,
Yeah,
these
that's
funds?
this area here.
Okay.
And then this is the entry road and the parking that would serve all of that.
And those 2 other soccer fields, are those going to be reserved area for all weather fields, or is?
Right, they would be, yeah, part of a future phase. We would probably go ahead and do the grading work for it, but they wouldn't be
Just
installed.
wait to be surfaced?
The city street bond will pay for Judge Cummings Road and leading on into the park, to the parking lots.
Yeah, I guess so.
Seems like we ought to find some money to finish that 4th ball field there. Seems like it's kind of odd out there, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, what we've talked about, we would really love to ideally move baseball totally. If we could get 5 more fields, it's $655,000 a field. It includes everything, including irrigation, bleachers and dugouts and everything, and lights. But we'd like to go on with the whole 5, which would be just a little over $3 million. So
For a total of 5 fields or a total
5
of?
more, 5 more. So
Or a
that
total
we-
of 8?
Total of 8. That way we could build everything,
Okay.
all of baseball. I hate for baseball, you know, it'd be a little
Can we split
cumbersome
up?
for them to have 2 spots that they're playing at.
And just so I'm clear on this, the way we came up with these amounts is, it's the full refinance of the bond for the town center. 1.5 is required to roll existing bonds, and then whatever the AMP needed was next. and then the amount left over is just happened to be the 3.5 that they're proposing that we would get, right?
Yeah, we had 3.5. I don't know how they came up with the exact numbers on that, and the AMP is 6.5. I mean, I'm sorry, not the AMP, the Walton Arts Center.
The Walton Arts Center.
Yeah.
And have we talked about flipping those? Because that would pay for our,
Yeah.
that would pay for all of our fields.
Yeah,
We-
all of it would.
Mhm. We asked, an alderman did ask that, and it's, no. The city council's already voted on this
Okay.
to approve it this way,
Okay.
so. And so did AMP, that's what they presented,
Okay.
to use their money. So,
All right.
Okay, any other questions before we move on? I'm sure we'll have more discussion between now and November on this.
I got,
Question in the back? Yes, if you would stand up and say your name and tell us who you are.
I'm Doug McKinney, and I operate a hiking group here in northwest Arkansas that probably has about 600 members in Fayetteville. And unlike you, I am someone that can actively promote this election. The question I have is about the wording that this will have on the ballot. Sometimes if you want something to happen because of the wording, you vote yes, and sometimes you vote no. Do you know what the wording is going to be on the ballot so that we know whether a yes vote is actually going to help this happen as opposed to a no vote?
yes, we do. I don't have the exact wording, but the city council did approve the wording that night. And what the campaign is, they're saying, vote yes, yes, yes. Yes is to refinance the town center bonds. Number 2 is the Walton Arts Center funding, and number 3 is the parks. So that's their advertisement, is yes, yes, yes.
We want to vote yeses. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
that's good clarification. Thank you, Connie.
Steve, I've got a question too.
Go ahead, Terry.
One of the issues can pass, but the other one, if the other one doesn't, they're not tied together, is that right?
That's correct.
They removed that stipulation.
So what happens if one passes and one doesn't? They can still sell the bonds for up to that amount of money, or how does that work?
Yes, each one, number 2 and number 3 says up to 3.5 for us and 6.5 for the Walton Arts Center. So it says up to. So, did I answer your question? So if one passes and one doesn't, it doesn't mean that the other one would get that
The
money. I wish, but,
But rolling the bonds has to
Roll-
pass.
yes.
So they'd just
Well-
issue fewer bonds and we'd pay it off faster? Is that what would happen,
Yeah.
I assume?
Yeah, they're issuing the bonds, I heard, for 25 years, is what Kit told us.
Or just issue the bonds for a lesser amount?
Do,
A lesser amount?
are we gonna be financing our 3.5 million out of our HMR?
No. It comes out of the AMP commission.
All of this comes out of the AMP?
Yes. Mhm.
So if-
Because we're increasing tourism.
So if AMPs, if the Walton Arts Center doesn't pass, they're still financing our,
If we pass.
If ours passes.
okay.
And even if the AMP doesn't pass, because that was the stipulation, was that had to pass in order for this to pass or the Walton, but that's been removed, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I've kind of,
Just 3 separate
They
issues.
decoupled
Yes.
everything.
Three separate.
Okay.
At first, we were linked. If
To-
number 1 didn't pass, then
To the
none of
town
them-
center bonds?
Yep.
Okay.
but what was explained to me is that their AMP would have to look at their other options if one would not pass, as to if they would, how they would refinance those bonds. I know I'm kind of confused, but that's.
For the one that didn't pass, they'd have to reevaluate that.
No, if one did not pass.
Number one.
I'm still getting clarification on that.
Right.
Yeah, if one did not pass, then I think they said there are other options that they could look at, is what city officials told me.
It's my understanding that the one is in there so they can just pay off the town center bonds and roll those funds into the new bonds, right?
Right.
I mean, that's basically all it is. They're just
Okay.
paying it off early. The town center will be free and clear, but the bonds, that money goes back in these other bonds.
Correct.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next up is approval of the August 5th board meeting minutes. Has everybody had the opportunity to look at those? Any changes, additions? I wasn't here, so I can't.
Motion.
Oh, we have a
So-
motion to accept,
Second.
and we have a second to accept the meetings as is. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. All right, they're approved. Next up, we have on the agenda, we have a tabled issue from the August 5th meeting, the trail naming of Clear Creek and Skull Creek Trails. Matt, I believe you're going to cover this for us?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you.
This was tabled because of the policy that allows a 30-day period, or more in this case because of Labor Day, but just review for public input. So I don't know if you guys got anything, feedback, anything? Okay. I mean, it's kind of pretty straightforward because we're naming after creeks that the trail follows. That I talked about last time. The only exception is down here where Skull Creek Trail, the green line shown on here, it's technically following Mud Creek, but we felt like it would be really confusing if we changed the name and called that part Mud Creek Trail, and then you're going along Skull Creek Trail and it's pretty well straight. And also we already have our other piece of Mud Creek Trail. So that's the way the Active Transportation Committee felt about it. They thought we should just continue the name Skull Creek Trail on up to the north where it meets the blue line, and then that becomes Clear Creek Trail, the east-west between Lake Fayetteville through Johnson, and then actually they plan to continue that same name, Clear Creek Trail, as it goes on out to Willow Creek.
They're going to keep that same name.
Yeah.
Good.
As it follows Clear Creek. Eventually on over to Arvest Ballpark, so pretty neat.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, so tonight really I just need, I guess, a motion to take this on to City Council for the final approval.
Any discussion on these namings? Any feedback that you got from the last meeting? No?
No.
I would move that we go ahead and approve these as the names.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. There we go, Matt.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have an Eagle Scout project, another in a list of Eagle Scout projects at Lake Fayetteville. David,
Yes.
if you could come up and tell us about what you have planned.
And I've had a bit of a cold recently, so if I sound, I don't know, hoarse or something. So I'm going to be doing an Eagle Scout project out at Lake Fayetteville. And by the way, I'm David Wolf. I'm a Life Scout. I'm with Troop 116 at Sequoia. And so I'm going to be doing an Eagle Scout project at Lake Fayetteville around the Biology Research Center. And this has been brought to my attention as I've done a couple of field trips out to that area for school-related trips in my biology class. And the trail out there has been kind of poor. It's sort of half of it's actually has eroded practically into Lake Fayetteville itself. And you can kind of see right here is that is the actual biology center. And they've got a sort of half-mile trail out here. And then this trail, really, this land right here is gone. And it's really just practically in the water. And so I'm going to be doing sort of work out there. So I'm going to be doing some side hilling, sort of widening the overall trail, and then bringing it in with landscape timbers and rebarring those down to then fight the erosion. And if you'll go to the next slide, I've got some pictures. All right, so right here, and these are just a few of the many areas that I'm going to be working on, but I didn't want to show you, 50 pictures. I thought I'd just show you guys condensed 6 pictures. So right here, if you can tell, is these are almost just gone. They're getting pushed out to the side. If you click the button real quick, we're going to be taking those out and pushing the land back in, pushing it, and then if you'll click it again, we're then going to be doing another line of landscape timbers right there. And then along with that, if you'll click, is I'm not going to be building a structure, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be side hilling, is I'm going to be cutting along this yellow line and sort of clearing out and widening the trail overall. So instead of having, if you can tell, the trail's about 3 to 4 feet wide. And if we squished it in, it would really only be about 2 or 3 feet wide in certain areas. So then we're going to widen it back out just to help it out. And they take many classes out there with huge groups of people of all ages. They have people from Springdale and Fayetteville coming out there. And they'll have classes of anywhere sizes from 10 to 35 is what they've been telling me. And when they've got about 10 little kids pushing and shoving each other to the sides, it's really nice to sort of have a wider trail. And in certain areas, they can't do that anymore. They have to just go strictly single file along the trail just because it's so thin. So go to the next slide. All right, so now what we've got right here, and this picture doesn't do it justice. It's hard to try and capture it all. But if you go behind that tree and you follow that brown line, there's really a trail that goes along there that's, I mean, really just about 1.5 or 2 feet wide, that they're just climbing around that tree. So what I'm going to be doing is, if you'll click real quick, is I'm going to be building a trail. We're going to sort of fill that one in over there just because half of it's in the water already. And then we're going to be sort of cutting through some of this land right here and getting around the trail, really just to make a brand new trail over there. So instead of having to,